Hi, everyone. It's Cheryl Hickerson, and it is a Tuesday topic. And today I get to be with my very sunny friend, Rachel Fox of the Sunny Day Fund. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I
It's always
am.
sunny.
You know, I have to tell you, I'm always kind of sparkly. I'm okay. I don't know. You're always sparkly. So is Beth Moss. And I feel like Beth's got like this air about her all the time, but I'm pretty chipper. I know it annoys some people. That's okay. And I just try not to let the world get the best of me. And that is actually why you're here today to talk about some sunny days. So tell everybody a little backdrop on what Sunny Day Fund is and what you do about your greatness.
Yep. Yep, Sunny Day Fund. I love the name. I hope everybody gets the name at the end of this. But we are an emergency savings account platform. So workplace emergency savings. The Secure Act 2.0, which was passed at the end of last year, was really the first piece of federal legislation around workplace emergency savings. So this is a brand new market. That means nobody has a line item in the budget for it. So it's super fun creating those opportunities. Um, and we had seen during COVID, 30% of workers had pulled out of their retirement accounts. So that's letting us know they don't have any emergency savings and they're treating the 401k as if it's a really expensive emergency savings account. If that's the only pool of money there, it's going to be vulnerable. So let's create another pool of money that's actually designed for emergencies, that is more of a rainy day fund. But our whole goal is savings shouldn't just be motivated by fear. It should just be the doom and gloom of the what ifs that makes people do it. And if we can automate it through payroll, right, have it be really familiar, the same way that a 401k is. It's payroll deducted, it's employer rewarded, but it's accessible and you can use it for anything. So yes, we want to have an emergency fund there, but it's also about talking to employees about what are your dreams? What are your goals? What's missing from your life? What do you hope to accomplish that takes money that you just don't know how to get there? There's so many people that are paycheck to paycheck saying, I'm never going to be able to take a vacation. I'm never going to be able to save up for that security deposit. I'm never going to be able to get my kid that awesome gaming system for Christmas. That's never going to be my life. It's like if you don't have a path to do that, it's not going to fall in your lap. But if we can do it through the magic of payroll deduction, where you can start paying yourself first and all these things we've been taught, then it becomes a lot more effortless, right? And then we
Yeah.
can provide this opportunity, use the employer to create this great opportunity for people that they wouldn't have elsewhere. And the employer obviously benefits by having an additional benefit that's an attraction and retention tool, increases productivity, reduces absenteeism, and preserves the 401k for the actual retirement that it should be.
So I love this so much because until I met you, the only example of something that I've ever had in my working life
Yep.
was when I had a job, and now I'm an entrepreneur. It's a little different, but when I had a job, the closest I've ever seen to this was once upon a time where I worked for Pacific Life Insurance,
Mhm.
and they had the opportunity to put it on every employee benefit statement. I want you to imagine how powerful this was back in the day when I had little kids.
Mhm.
So you accrued PTO,
Yep.
right? And so I don't know what the math is for that, but basically you work a month, you get 2 days. You work a month, you get two
Sure.
days, and whatever. But they did allow, and there was this one line, and I'll never forget, and very few people missed it, but I didn't because of what I do for a living and helping people, right? This one line said, would you like to buy a week of vacation? And I remembered sitting there looking at that, and I called HR and said, what does that mean? And they're like, well, you can put money into an account. We'll hold it for you. And then you have a week of vacation you can use for yourself in addition to the days we're giving you. Okay. So you're basically putting money away for that. So this is kind of what you're talking about, like putting that money away for a sunny
Mhm.
day
Yep.
versus using it. Now, transparently, what I will say, I ended up using most of those days for sick kids. Got five of them, like schlepping these kids all over the place. They're
Yeah.
always sick and under the weather. But I remembered that being so unique until I met you. That's the first closest I'd seen to somebody planning for a specific event, like that emergency
Yeah.
savings kind of a thing, right? And now you have something much more formalized and ability. And you're right, the 401k. Beth might remember this, but back in the early days of Females in Finance, Cherie Mason up in Denver, she posted and during the beginning of the pandemic, don't cut your bangs, don't touch your 401k. I don't know if you remember that, Beth. I was rolling, but she was absolutely right. She says
Yeah.
every day people are calling. I want to take a. She's like, no, 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 no. The
That became our
pandemic was not what this was
motto.
built for, you know. And you're right, Rachel. I mean, and Beth, I know you remember that because that was
Oh
so
yeah, it
funny.
was like every meeting was started during the pandemic with "Don't touch your banks, don't touch your 401k."
Yeah,
It
like
became like a huge motto amongst the community.
yeah. And I
Oh,
think that that's really powerful
mhm.
and what you just said is the most expensive savings plan when people use it that way because the
Right.
penalties and stuff that you're going to pay. So here's a question. One of the things I would love for you to kind of dive into is why would somebody want to do, I mean, other than the obvious things, right? Because we do
Mhm.
talk about all the down, and I think it's more so with women. I know there's no men on the call right now, or but I feel like for us, it's always like doom and gloom. Oh, you better save your money. You're gonna be a bag lady. You're gonna be like we're so freaked out all the time about money. We're constantly like burrowing away, like we're
Yeah.
squirrels and nuts and stuff. We're trying to. And
Yes.
then we get in trouble, right? How many of you know this to be true? We get in trouble for saving too much.
Mhm.
Then it's you're not spending, you got to save it. And like, which is it? But you're supposed to save it or not. And that's what I like about the way you position this because you don't have to have an emergency to get to that money.
Right. And that's the whole idea is that like again, there's huge communities that have been historically underserved by financial institutions that are completely disengaged from the concept and conversations around financial wellness, right? If we go to any city, we see tons of people using check cashing establishments still. So our goal is to really bank the underbanked and engage a lot more of those people in the savings process. Because for many people, if they're not saving consistently through payroll, they're probably not effectively saving consistently on their own. Because again,
Bank the underbanked.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah. And there's a lot of people that, I mean, we know that this is a pain point for a lot of low to moderate income workers. And yes, like you can bring in a financial literacy program and be like, here's all the things you need to do. Okay. Go do it now. Go do it. It's like putting the onus on the employee is not moving the needle. It's not change like the status quo is not working. And I think also from a DEI perspective, the opportunity is not the same. If you tell everybody, just go down to the bank, let's just split up a split direct deposit, right? Just go down to the bank, bring your 3 to 5 years of tax returns, pass your background check, pass your credit check. Oh, already have your $500 minimum saved up. Like already have that all for your 0.0 nothing dismal interest rate. Like I don't know why people aren't doing that. Why aren't they doing that? So we're just trying to say, employers, stop outsourcing this. We know that your workforce is struggling financially. We know that there's this link between financial stress and mental health that, from a total reward standpoint, we're really trying to address and bring people in and give them resources. I think, especially the younger generations, really leaning a lot more heavily on employers to provide resources and tools. And how can you get me better in a better financial situation next year than I am in this year? So I tell employers, I'm like, stop outsourcing that. Like you see your people struggling. This is your horse. Put your armor on. Like come right in, save the day, deliver the solution. Right? Stop giving it away.
Do you know
Use
what I
this to
feel
your
like this
advantage.
is like? How many of you on the call remember layaway? Do you remember layaway? Thanks. Okay. So I'm not too I look at this as like seriously though, I think about this like a savings layaway.
Yeah.
Right? So because people don't like the word savings, they don't like the word diet, or they don't
Right.
like the word budget. It's all
Mhm,
these are words that people go, ooh, ooh.
mhm.
But layaway, I think that was, man, that was such a great program for a lot of people in the low to moderate income because they could buy those things, make the
Christmas
payments.
clubs. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course, the biggest just so you know, I did some homework on that particular topic 8 or 9 months ago about a different thing I was working on. Did you know layaway didn't go away because people weren't making their payments? Layaway went away because they didn't want to hold the inventory. They had to have the space
Mm,
to put the things away so that
right.
people could come and get them. So guess what? It wasn't because people wouldn't make the payments. It was because they just didn't have the space. And space costs money, for the
Yep.
square footage. Because I was really curious, like, did layaway go away because people just weren't making the payments? Absolutely not. When given the opportunity to have a structured way to put something away, and to your point, it's not just, oh, go do it. If that push-up was easy, I would have gone and done it last night instead of sitting
Right.
on the couch binge watching 5 episodes of whatever. It's just, I'm not gonna go do it.
Yeah.
So I think of what you're doing is sort of like the layaway for what you're talking about, and I think that for older people, like me, I'm older people now, good Lord, that I remember that though. I do remember the layaway. kind
Well,
of
and you want to
concept.
automate it, right? You want to make it as
Exactly.
easy for people. You want to take away as many excuses. We want to tear down as many financial barriers as possible. You have to think there's all these government programs now that are incentivizing employers to hire, returning citizens or people that have come out of the correctional system. It's like people have different situations and you can't just outsource the people and expect them to do it on their own. I think that there's a lot of opportunity here for employers to really create avenues for people to change outcomes that they wouldn't be able to do on their own.
So the way you
Oh,
work,
I
and
think
this,
Carla has a question.
oh, Carla, go ahead. You're on mute, girl. You're on mute.
Where's your mom?
I'm respectful because Rachel was sharing such good nuggets today. Rachel,
Oh,
how
thanks.
does this work? Because one of
That was
the
gonna be my
things
question.
huh?
That was my question. I was just
Oh,
going to ask
okay.
her, so it's perfect timing.
Yeah, because the thing is, there are people that are within the area that I mostly work, and I would say if I said they went from paycheck to paycheck, it would be a stretch, and there's a gap there. So
Mhm.
how would they participate? Because they don't have bank accounts of their own,
Mhm.
and they go to these check cashing because that's the way they convert their paycheck into dollars that they use. Some have even gone online and done like the debit card where you load, and that becomes a little bit more of a mind fest because of the fees that's charged to it. So how
Yep.
do they do that? That's the part I'm curious to hear today.
Yeah, and thanks for asking that because again, that's a huge population that I think historically has been underserved. So our goal is really to work with employers. Remember, we need an avenue for money to move. So our goal is to work with employers to establish a payroll slot, and the employee decides how much they want to divert from their paycheck into this new bank account we start for them.
Okay.
So we're actually opening a brand new FDIC insured savings account for each and every individual employee. This is not a
Okay.
custodial account. We're giving Britney Spears her own account here. You're not Britney Spears' dad, right?
Mhm.
So everybody gets their own account, right? You get an account, you get an account. Everybody gets their own thing. And that way, whenever they want to access that money, and again, these are post-tax dollars going from their paycheck. So it's free and clear, ready to use, no delay, accessible that day. As soon as they decide they want to make a withdrawal, they log into their account on the sunnydayfund.com app. So it's intentionally a web-based app for digital inclusion. It's not dependent on your device. You have to have the latest iPhone 13 to download something from the App Store. And we can leverage Google Translate to make it available in any language that employer needs. That employee logs in, they go through our really intentional withdrawal process. So we've got 4 different behavioral finance principles built in there just to put some guardrails on here, right? Because it's really tempting to be like, oh, I've got $500 saved up. I'm gonna go buy some shoes. Like, oh, no, no. What's your savings intent, right? What were you doing with this money? What were your goals? What were your dreams? So we have mental accounting and we have all of these different things. But eventually, we'll ask them, how do you want this money? And they can do either an ACH transfer to an existing checking or savings account, which should happen the same day or next day. They could request a paper check, which does take a couple days in the mail to get there. Or soon we're going to have a $0 payment card. So like, think of it as like a $0 Visa card. They could transfer, maybe I need 4 new tires and I need $500 to go to the tire shop and I don't have a bank account. I will transfer $500 to this Visa card that I can use this Visa card at the tire shop. So we really debated a long time about that because we're not a spending program, right? But overall, the increased accessibility to the money won out on that conversation. And so we've decided to implement that pay card for people who don't have banking facilities. Again, and trying to educate some of those people. Do you know how much money that check cashing establishment is taking from your paycheck, right? So doing a little bit, engaging them in these conversations again, where they just thought, that doesn't apply to me, right? 401k, blah, 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 HSA, blah, 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 that's not for me. Meanwhile, you have all of those upper, income earners taking advantage of those employer dollars. So we have low to moderate income workers not taking advantage of those employer dollars because it's almost tone deaf to ask them to put money away for 30 years from now when they can't afford their groceries this week, right? So it's about understanding where they are, meeting them where they're at, and actually investing money into a benefit that changes their outcome. It changes their lives on what they're able to do. And for women, we track a lot of times what's going on with the 401k and who's withdrawing from the 401k the most. And we see that Black and Hispanic and women are the ones who are withdrawing from the 401k at a much higher rate.
The least paid, the least paid
Yeah.
individuals in business.
Or, if there's a husband and wife and they get into financial trouble, all of a sudden it's the wife's account that becomes the slush fund, right? And the husband, we can't touch that. So there's just some differences in there where, again, we want to provide some more resources for people. On the low to moderate income workers, we talk about this a lot, how it's expensive to be poor, right? If something comes up, you have an
Ooh,
unexpected financial shock and you can't afford it, all you're provided with is debt solutions, which ends up costing you more in the long run. And these are the very people that cannot afford it. So
And
instead
if you
of,
think that's not true, go to every low income city has a rent center.
yeah,
Every single low income has a rent center, and they charge you 3-4 times what that particular item is worth and how they rent it out. Because without it, there's no place that will give them a rental agreement.
and it's an immediate need. It's a
an
short-term
immediate
immediate need, and they
Yeah.
prey upon that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, we want everybody to participate in the 401k, but if they're not, look at us as like the gateway drug to a payroll deducted savings, right? It's like, start somewhere. Like,
I love
put
that.
$10 a paycheck away. It doesn't matter the amount, it's the behavior. Start
That's
saving,
exactly it.
learn that you can earn interest instead of paying interest, right? Because we don't work with employers that do not kick in and match on this. So we need employers to put their money where their mouth is. Yep.
So I'm curious too, and you guys all can ask questions. Just come off mute and ask Rachel a question. When you work, so you work with financial advisors to get to the business owners as well.
Yeah, because I can pull up their Form 5500 and I can see what participant loans are on the 401k. So let's stop the bleeding. Right.
Stop. This is why I like her. She's always just says it like it
It's like,
is.
what's your strategy for that? What's your plan B? Oh, you don't
There's
have
no
one.
sh-
Hi. Here we
yeah.
go. Sunshine.
There's no sugarcoating with Rachel. She just says it like it is. And and I don't know about you, but when I look back, even I'll point the finger at me, and I look back when I was younger. Man, something like this would have been really helpful during those early working days. When I was at a company, because I put the money in the 401k to get the match. I, invested money into other places like that, but they didn't have anything really for those I think the closest maybe outside of the buying your week of vacation was maybe your HSA, your health savings account, right? Where you can put some money away to pay for some of those, whatever. But let's be honest, early HSA days, they all owe us a check because they were difficult. Okay. Like, you better prove that you really went to go see Dr. Posniak, on this date. And
Yeah.
you want to come along? You want to go with me to the exam room? How do you do? I mean, you're submitting a receipt for them, and they weren't having it. It's a little easier now.
But I think that's why there's such an
Care
appetite.
Credit.
I think that's why there's such an appetite for just like a liquid, unqualified withdrawal
Exactly.
process. It's like, bring people back into financial independence and let them just stop checking boxes. Stop. Oh, what constitutes an emergency? Let's have you parade your personal financial information in front of this board to decide if your clause is worthy enough for a grant from our emergency assistance program.
Here's the question queen. She came
Oh,
off of.
all right,
she
Carla.
came off of.
Oh,
mute.
Claire. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Always Claire. Yeah.
No,
It's my nickname.
It's
for
more
her.
of a comment too, and I think that I like the way that you've approached this about, it's thriving versus striving for well-being, and the idea of what constitutes an emergency expense. There are some people that they may be buying a big screen TV, which to some people seems like a luxury, and maybe it's to keep their kids home so they can keep them an eye over and then have their friends over, and it's more of a safety thing, and it's not a luxury, it's a TV. There's always a lot of things behind those expenses, and this really seems to give that security, I think, that is needed.
That was so well put. And so
is.
thoughtful,
That's why
Claire,
so
because
clear.
I get really sensitive when I hear people say something that sounds like, oh, they don't have any money, but they have the latest iPhone. Well, first of all, you don't know if they're paying for it. Second of all, I mean, I can tell you right now, I paid for my kids' cell phones till they were probably mid-20s. They're all using my Netflix. All of them. Grown people with mortgages using my Netflix. But, it's just one of the things that I do, and I don't even think twice about it, So to your point on this, I think that I like the way that we're able to get into communities where we maybe couldn't get in before, to really start meeting them where their most immediate need is at,
and showing them how they can get things that they want in their life in a little bit of a better way, right? Instead of buying something and then paying it off with installments that end up costing you more in the long run, let's just save up for it and then pay with cash, right? So again, if you save up for anything, like, you should be entitled to have that thing. I don't care what it is or what people think about it, right? And you could accomplish whatever you want in your life as long as you've got a plan to get there. But I think a lot of times we're talking to a lot of low and moderate income workers about like, well, why are you saving up for that? You should be doing all of this. It's like everybody has dreams. Everybody wants nice things. Everybody wants to splurge. Everybody wants to feel alive, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody should be entitled to do that, and we should be able to give them a better way of doing that than going into debt. Like I don't like all of this earned wage access and things that are kicking the can down the road. It's like, yes, you're going to get money now, but that's going to reduce your next paycheck. Like, is that building sustainable financial security? Like, let's talk about how we can actually accumulate wealth for the first time. And that requires behavioral
Are
change.
there any requirements for the business owners, like a certain size, a certain whatever, to participate in this?
So in my outbound outreach, I'm kind of focusing on employers that have between 200 and 5,000 employees. That's just kind of our sweet spot. And, the larger companies are coming to us pretty organically when they see us speaking at, the Aspen Institute Retirement Forum and the Center for Financial Inclusion and the Federal Reserve up in New York. They move very slowly as well. So that's okay. And then smaller companies are coming to us more organically through my LinkedIn content. I work with a lot of computer engineers and we're good about posting things, but they're like, you're the shiny thing, go get some eyeballs. So I've really tried to, that's how I met Cheryl. Like I've really tried to use LinkedIn to the best of our ability. We're a startup, it's, cost effective, we're lean on budget. So I've tried to do as much as I can to let people know what we're doing. It's a new concept, right? And with the employer match, like what we were just talking about, we don't work with employers who don't do the match. The match works a little bit differently than a 401k might, because we don't expect to see that hockey stick line, right? We want people to be using it. We want to see that jagged line in the balance. So that means we need to give employees an incentive to keep some money in the account. So I'm asking the employer to pay a subsidized interest rate on the average daily balance of what the employee accumulates in their account, right? So
Carla?
that way, the more money you have in the account, the more money you get from the employer. But if you're pulling money out just as fast as it's going in, 20% on $0 is still $0.
Yeah.
Is there a minimum that the employee should start at, or, just to wait and sort of get a feel for?
For a contribution amount at
Mhm.
each paycheck, I mean, most of the time, our minimum that we set is about $5. So
Oh my
again,
God, you
just
that's way
get
low.
started. Don't get bogged down in the minutia of like, let's overanalyze this. There were so many times that we've kind of like in our app, we've got all these different goals for mental accounting, right? We've got our emergency fund, and then we've got a couple other goals that people can choose to be saving up towards. And it was like, oh, well, maybe we should rate one of these more than the other. And like the more complicated it became, the more people just disengaged. It was like, nope, now whatever your contribution is, it just gets evenly peppered throughout those goals every paycheck, easy peasy. And again, that mental accounting is so important to hold them true to those savings goals. We have those little speed bumps in the withdrawal process just to make sure they don't need a ton of financial literacy to do this. It's really just, can you type out what you're going to take this out for? Because like, this is coming from your emergency fund. Are you going to buy shoes with this? You're buying a jacket? Like, is that an emergency? If you want to save up for shoes, establish a goal as a pair of shoes, right? Again, it's this, you can do whatever you want to, but be intentional about it.
One of the things that I see in this, and Claire probably can pipe in because of some of the social work that she does, going back to thinking about for the smaller donations of those money. So maybe they are $5 and $10, whatever, who cares? It's their money. But I almost see like a reward system from companies as they move from 555 to 10, 10, 10. That may not seem like a lot until somebody's had to go buy diapers and formula, which is formula is astronomically expensive.
Yep.
And I think that I go back to the Weight Watchers analogy for every pound counts, like really applauding that person. Like, I think there's such a way that workplaces could do that and say, I see you doing
well,
this.
and our
Good
reward
job.
structure we can do our reward model a couple different ways. We call it a reward instead of a match, because again, we're rewarding this behavioral change. The only way that you're getting that reward is if you're actually accumulating a balance in your account. And we go to employers. Typically what we do is we'll separate the workforce into different groups. So we're outside of ERISA, so we can have different wage groups. So we'll take the hourly workers or the low to moderate income workers, and we're going to give them a ridiculous interest rate. I'm talking like 10% a quarter, right? It's 46% APY. You want to
Mm.
start motivating a behavioral change, something like that's going to do it. But
Mhm.
they can't contribute all that much each time either, right? Maybe it's only $10 or $20 a paycheck. So a 10% quarterly reward on that's like $13, right? So we have to start them accumulating a balance. But that person's manager, right? The managers and the salaried workers, we might be giving them like a 3% increase, like 3% interest rate per quarter, right? So again, they're contributing $100 a paycheck though. So overall, everybody's going to be earning this interest up to a maximum cap that the employer is going to set, like annual cap of like $200 a year, $400 a year, whatever they want to do. But we just want to make sure that the low to moderate income workers are earning that more aggressively, that it's weighted towards them, because there's so many other programs that are weighted to benefit the high income earners. There are far
To
fewer
make the
benefits.
wealthier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I have somebody who's, again, a paycheck to paycheck worker making $17 an hour, I want them to have a 10% interest rate. Their manager who's making 85K a year, they're going to have a 3% interest,
Yeah.
right? And that's what the employer is paying. Everybody has the same annual cap of what they can take advantage of, but this is how we create behavioral changes. We give them the pathway of payroll deduction, so it's super simple, and we give them a motivation. Like the banks have not been motivating people. Banks used to pay people for keeping their money there. Like they don't do that anymore, right? So we just try to motivate people, and it's like this is a program where you, as a $17 an hour worker, you can start taking advantage of these employer dollar programs. I know you're not doing the HSA. I know you're not doing the 401k. I get it. This is something you can do. This is something intentional for you, right? Focus.
Rachel's
Or they
slightly
could do it.
passionate about this.
Sorry, I get on my soapbox. Or they
I
could do
love
it by
it.
tenure, right? If there's people that have attrition problems or certain industries where they're like, man, we are getting slammed with turnover. It's like, hey, start everybody with a 5% interest. Once you've been here for 6 months, it'll jump up to 10%. Once you've been here for a year, you can jump up to 15%. So structure the program however you want to get the rewards that you would like from your workforce. But either
Could,
way,
since you're
employees-
outside of ERISA, Rachel, are you able to use like, is one of the sign-on bonuses to put like $500 starting in your whatever account or
yeah,
something
we
like
usually
that
do like $25. Yeah.
or whatever? I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like 25 or $30.
I don't
But
know,
again,
man. There's a Burger King down the road from here in Arnold that I live in a very small town, and that sign says $15 an hour and has a $250 sign-on bonus at
Crazy.
Burger King. I've seen it all now, I feel like. But I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, what an incentive if that, when you start your job to immediately put $100 into, I mean, think about the money that we blow on Post-it notes or whatever else. I don't care. Just pick it. It doesn't matter from a
Yeah.
company perspective. $100 is a drop in the bucket for these 200 to 5,000 employee firms
Mhm.
to have it start fresh with that. They're going to get that money right off the bat. If something happens bad, they'll have it.
Yeah,
Because
and from
remember, they haven't even earned that money yet. Like,
Right. And we talk about from a budgeting purpose, because a lot of employers are like, well, how much is this going to cost me, right? Because
Yeah.
we're thinking about it in medical dollars, right? Health insurance dollars or 401k dollars, like huge budgets, right? The majority of the cost of this program is just a sneaky way to get them to pay their employees more. Like the vast majority of this is going back to the employees in the match. Like that's what this is all about. But a big part of like if somebody was just going to come to us and be like, give me a ballpark, right? It should not exceed $300 per participating employee in the first year. So instead of raising your 401k, that leaky bucket by 1% again this year, so more people can take out loans, just take a little bit of that budget and put it into a short-term savings solution that actually engages the rest of your workforce. It's more focused on short-term immediate needs. Still have the 401k there, but instead of sinking additional dollars into the leaky bucket, let's stop the leak by having an emergency savings account available.
Claire asked a question in the chat. Rachel, are you familiar with Brightside?
Brightside, I feel like I can picture their logo in my head. It's like a rainbow wheel kind of thing. I don't know as much about them as I should. I'll tell you that.
The reason I ask is because they send financial literacy or daily money managers into companies for that benefit, but that would be a great one for you to partner with, because they're not offering that fund, they're offering people to teach about it. But that would be a great connection.
Yeah, and we do have two partners. We work with Work Life Partnership and Green Path to provide one-on-one financial counseling for people who need it. And again, on that topic, we could not be more aligned with what they're going to be preaching, right? What we have found is that if sometimes companies just offer a financial literacy program, the uptake or the participation rate is usually in the single digits because it's really difficult to get people who don't have tangible dollars engaged in conversation about what to do with these hypothetical dollars. But as they actually start savings and start seeing that accumulation, then it's not hypothetical anymore. Then it's real, and all of a sudden it's a real conversation. So if we can do those things simultaneously, that gets the best effort because then people start going, "Oh, I do have the yes. What should I be doing? What else should I be saving up for?" And then all of a sudden they care. But until they have some savings, sometimes it's just wants more things that everybody else has that I don't, and this doesn't apply to me. So we really try to do it in tandem. Carla, did you have another question? I thought you did.
Well, I did, but this is very engaging and I'm like absorbing this because
Yay.
I have a client who is a sanitation engineer, which is we used to know as garbage collectors.
Yep.
And he has 5 kids. And I've been trying to get him to save for so long. I feel like just going to his office and taking the money from him himself and holding it until he needs it because he starts, he stops, and he looks and sees it and he takes it out and spends it. And he forgets to restart. And that's the part that drives me crazy. I don't mind him using it. It's just that if you take it out, put it back. And that's the hardest thing and my concern. And I said to him, you have 5 kids. There's always going to be an emergency. You must have money. And his wife right now is not working. So it's just, he's the sole breadwinner. So I can see that sometimes he gets a little stressed, but I said, I'm only asking you to put $100 a month in. That's it. I'm not asking a lot. Imagine if I asked you to put more. But my concern, and I think your plan would help him, but I mean, his employee is like the 20 people in the business. So that's not a viable option right now. But the concept I like that you have is something that would help someone like that.
We would still work with them.
Oh, you would? Okay.
Yeah, we would still work with them. And then we do have lots of nonprofit partners that there's a possibility of grant funding for different employers. So we always want to work with everybody. Like our mission is to bring financial stability to the masses.
Right.
We're going to do that most effectively through employers.
Okay. Because it was driving me crazy.
Yeah, no, like if people come to me, I'm not spending like marketing hours on that. So please,
Right.
No,
I understand. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and that's why a big part of our program is about the behavioral finance of how we gamify it. Our app really gamifies asking them questions throughout. We get them say they know that they'll be able to do this. This is not another sleepy, boring financial app.
Okay.
Well, I know we're right a little over time actually, but these are all such good questions. Any final thought? Like, first of all, how do people work with you, Rachel?
So I go to this place called LinkedIn sometimes. You can find me there. My email address is just rachel.fox@sunnydayfund.com. So you can always feel free to reach out to me there. Our website does have a lot more information on there. There's a pretty cool employer calculator where you can kind of put in some of your workforce demographics and move the slider around to kind of see what kind of ROI you would expect from a program like this based on the reduction of loans and the increase in retention, productivity, and some other things that we could factor in. There's also, a lot more resources that we would have available on our Sunny Day Fund page. We've got webinars with recent clients. We've got lots of information about Secure Act 2.0. We've got a whole blogs that's just a fount of information. And we do our own surveys every year on the workforce data so that we're always on top of what is going on the bloodline of what people are thinking about.
I really appreciate you spending this time, but I always learn every time you talk about this. I'm like, oh, there's that. I wrote down a couple of different ideas I'm going to look up to see if they would work and then reach out to you. But any final questions before we let Rachel go? No? All right. Rachel, you're the best.
You're the best, lady. I'm just trying to be like you when I grow up.
The love fest that's here. No, this has been exciting. And as we run into those business owner clients, please be thinking about Rachel and introducing her to them so she can at least tell them about this, because I think they don't know what they don't know. Right.
Right.
And so I think just putting this idea into their head of there's a way for me to give back and make things better, and it doesn't necessarily cost me an arm and a leg. I think that this is, just a really beautiful example of a way that people can do that immediately with post-tax dollars. I really love it. All right, this has been the best. I'll have this up and we'll send the replay out. If you need anything, reach out to Rachel, reach out to me. But it's good to see all of your faces today.
Thanks,
Take care.
everybody. Have a sunny day.
Thank you, Rachel.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.